So for those that weren't there for the first video, part one, go watch it. It's really interesting. And you're going to get the rest of the information that because I'm going to start just in the middle of this, because I already talked about it. I don't need to go rehash it for this video. Just go watch the other video. I'm drinking hot tea, bitch. This is the Carter. There you go. DJ. Oh, that's my DJ. Goddamn. Never done that before.
Than to need it and not have it. Because once you need it, it's too late.
Now it's the time to call the number on your screen and log in.
All right. By 1914, about 60 miles of the tunnel had been constructed. We're talking about the tunnel system under Chicago. Typically 7 feet 6 inches high and 6 feet wide. Jesus Christ. That is this. This is under the streets of Chicago pre-1906, the picture says. So all of this existed pre-1906. So the fact that we are now saying by 1914, like this has already been in existence for a while. 7 feet 6 inches high, 6 feet wide, with 2 feet gauge tracks. So that's what I was right about that. 19 elevators were connected to tunnel with customers, and 5 elevators served universal public stations where freight could be dropped off or picked up by the public. Think about how convenient that would be today. What the fuck is going on here? The railroad operated 132 electric locomotives, typically 30 to 50 horsepower, 22 to 37 kilowatts each, and had 2,042 merchandise cars, 350 excavating cars, and 235 coal and ash cars. This isn't you aren't like, what the fuck are you talking about here? This sounds like the past to you? This huge underground tunnel network? $2,042 merchandise cars? What the fuck does that even mean? In 1914, the tunnel company handled 609,320 short tons, 544,036 long tons of freight, 275,218 short tons, 245,730 long tons, of which were merchandise. being transferred underneath the ground via electric train, because it had to be electric. You couldn't have internal combustion engines underneath the ground like that. The smoke would kill people. So, what do you think was supplying the electricity back then? I mean, to power all of these things, it seems like that would require a decent amount of electricity, don't you think? The remainder was presumably coal, ash, and excavation debris. From 1912 into the 1930s, the tunnel company was managed by Sherman Weld Tracy. It was never very profitable, but it avoided receivership, with most of the stock held by J. Ogden Armour and E. H. Harriman and their heirs. That seems cool to you? Well, I can't edit. It's not going to let me. I accidentally pushed the edit button. Conflict with the subway. Of course, because right, there's a subway as well. Plans for a passenger subway service in Chicago date back to the turn of the 20th century. And the original permits to dig the freight tunnels allowed for future cut and cover subway development above the tunnels. In the 1930s, when the Chicago Rapid Transit Company and the city finalized the design of the State Street and Dearborn Street subways, plans called for the tunnels to be dug through the blue clay along the line originally followed by the freight tunnels. I mean, this is stuff I'd really like to know more about. And this is the stuff I can't find details on. I can only find these nothing details about how the Jays own this and the Jays do that, and the Harriman. I mean, Harriman is involved. I mean, come on. The Chicago Tunnel Company went bankrupt and applied for voluntary reorganization in 1956. The tunnel company attempted to sever itself from the bankruptcy holding company, claiming it could operate at a profit. But by 1959, the tunnel asked for abandonment permission. This is fucking crazy. Are we to believe that a fully operational underground transit system isn't something that would be valuable in today's world? I mean, it's just wild. Yep, I'm crazy because I'm reading. You don't like to read. I get it. Reading is hard for you. I get it. But this is the big boy table, so you probably want to go sit at a different table. I think we're having conversations above your pay grade. And, you are going to do nothing but prove it. So, please. Right. I didn't say anything about you not being here before, see? When stupid people get challenged, they say stupid things. And they start arguing their own narrative. Nobody said anything about this person not being here before. I just said this probably isn't the place for you. But again, what is stupid going to do? Stupid is going to make up its own fucking narrative because that's literally all stupid is capable of. This is the face of mental illness and crack addiction. Yep. People reading and asking questions. Boy, you dumb Jays sure hate when people do that, don't you? I can't stress it enough. There are people here that are mad because I'm looking into the history of the Chicago Tunnel Company. Oh my goodness. These same people, like if I start talking about we should kill pedos and stuff, they're not gonna be like, hell yeah, right on, brother. We should kill. That's disgusting, and we should cut off Israel. They're the worst, and blah blah. They don't say anything like that. But let me be talking about submarines or subway tunnels or anything. Oh boy, they are upset, upset. Gotta love it. This is that Team Jorge shit, man. It just doesn't make. I'm sorry, but especially with how bad you are at this, I refuse to believe that real life human beings are this stupid. Other than Jays, I mean, I guess if you are a Jay, then I can totally appreciate that. Then yes, you are that stupid. I get that. But for regular people to just be here and like, no, I'm mad at you. You're talking about stuff I don't talk about ever. I'm too busy being distracted by dumb shit. Like I just can't. I cannot imagine these are real fucking people. It just doesn't make any sense. It makes sense if you're working, you know, if your job is a paid government troll who trying to stop people from progressing, stop people from answering or asking questions and looking into things. I get that. That makes sense, and as fucked up as it is, I can respect it. You know, you're doing a job, you got a family you got to feed and shit. Sure, but if we're just to say that this is like just regular people, they could be doing anything else in the world, and instead they're here mad because I'm talking about subway cars and shit. I can't believe that. I'm sorry. I just can't. I can't. I would think anybody in their right mind would be fascinated by this. Nobody understands that. I mean, if you know that these tunnel systems and all that exist in Chicago and other places, then you probably are already going down that Tartaria wormhole or whatever rabbit hole, and and this stuff is already fascinating to you. So you're not the people I'm worried about or I'm talking about. But anybody else, like even your average dumbass Trump supporter, you didn't know about this shit. And to find out that this stuff is real, these tunnel systems and all that shit's real. And then to hear about the bullshit narrative you're given to explain it, if that's not fascinating to you, bipartisan, by religion, whatever religion you are, whatever anything you are, if this shit doesn't fascinate you, again, you're just dumb on a level I can't relate to. Chicago Tunnel Company went bankrupt and applied voluntary. Oh yeah. The Interstate Commerce Commission consented to abandonment that July, and the tunnel assets were sold in an auction for $64,000. What? $64,000? That's it? Funny too how like museums and shit aren't buying this stuff up. This makes sense to anybody? Here we go, tunnel flooding. Here I am thinking we're going to get some sort of explanation. And it starts with in 1991, so we don't have a flooding issue until 1991. Okay. Near the Kenzie Street Bridge, a new set of pilings, collectively known as a dolphin, were driven into the riverbed to prevent barges from bumping into the bridge. As the pillars were installed, a miscalculation was made that caused severe damage to the tunnel directly below the river. That's so interesting, isn't it? They accidentally flooded the tunnels, so now they can't be fucking looked into. Wow. The risk of flooding was well understood by George W. Jackson, the chief engineer who built the tunnel system. Wait, what? Oh, this is that Jackson guy that you can't click on him. Interesting. This is the second time this guy's been brought up and I can't click on him. And apparently he designed all of it. That makes total sense. Jackson received a patent. Oh, of course he did. He also not only designed the whole thing, but he also invented the shit necessary to make it work. Why wouldn't he have? I rage quit so I could come right back. Yeah, that makes total sense. Look how angry I am. Like, can you imagine being so superficial, so shallow that you know you can't best me in any of it. So now you have to tell yourself that you're making me angry to make yourself feel better? Because I'm clearly just fuming mad. I mean, come on. How fucking stupid and desperate do you have to be? I can't actually best him in anything, so I know I'm gonna claim he's angry. That'll make me feel better. Like you don't hear the words that are coming out of my mouth when I say like thank you. Like I couldn't do this without you. Without you boosting my numbers, one, and two, being the dumbass that I constantly try to point out. Like if I'm wrong about things, then people should be able to just tell me what I'm wrong about. But instead, regular people, obviously, I'm always encouraging you to ask yourself, how does this make sense? Is this what you would do? Is there any situation in the world where you would create fake profiles so you could go to somebody's page and talk shit about everything but what they're talking about? And then, they'll put it to you like, are you a pedo or a pedo supporter? And you're going to be like, you stink. You're not going to answer that question. And like, is that what normal people do? I guess I'm just so fucking not normal that it sounds like just foreign insanity to me. It sounds like absolute, like, who the fuck would do that? I mean, I could sleep. Sleeping would be better than getting my shit kicked in and saying a bunch of dumb comments. It's so fucking crazy to me. I just can't imagine being that big of a loser. It's so weird. As big of a loser as I am, I can't imagine watching me because you hate me. That takes loser to just. But again, these are the people that are so desperate to try to hurt my feel. What am I saying that's hurting everyone's feelings so much? if I'm talking about we should kill pedos and we should eliminate these Jays and their control, well then yeah, I can understand why that hurts your feelings.
Anywhere with Pocket Air. Call or go online.
If you're one of them, yeah, right? But like, other than that, who's gonna get mad? I'm gonna hurt your feeling. I'm gonna say something ridiculous, hurt your feeling. You get out of your mind, and then you're gonna say something easily stupid, like easily debunked. You're in mom's basement. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, like it's just so ridiculous. Trying to wrap my head around it is just as stupid as trying to wrap my head around this nonsense that we're given as far as our history. It takes the same sort of stupidity and like that J stupidity to think this makes sense. To say something like, if you look at the history of Israel, that's gonna demonize Israel. Like, in thinking that makes you look good. If you're that stupid, I just, again, it's not something I can relate to. I try to. I try my hardest to think about, like, what would it take to get me to troll somebody? And do it that, like, if I'm going to troll somebody, I'm going to listen to every word they say and try to pick apart what they're saying. I'm going to try to make them look stupid on their feed. I'm not going to constantly say things that they just laugh at and it clearly doesn't work. Like, I wouldn't do that. It's so distant for me. I can't, the only way I can make it make sense is relating it to that kid that always, did stupid shit in school, right? And come to find out he lives in an abusive household and the only attention he ever gets is negative attention. So that's the only thing he knows how to get. He doesn't know how to get positive attention. I'm going to go into a conversation and speak about what's being said so I can be included in the conversation. They don't know how to do that. They know how to interrupt the conversation so that with something stupid so that the parents, get the fuck out of here, and they get that negative attention, but at least it's something. That's what the only thing I can sort of relate this to. And it's such a strange thing. Like, really, it's like, you know, you almost feel sorry for them if they're real. Like, I totally get it if they're just bots or if they're agents doing a job, and because they don't have anything they can say, they're just fish flopping around trying to grasp for air. I get that. But to think it's just losers, I don't know. That's just weird. I can't do it. Anyway. Jackson received a patent on a portable bulkhead that could be used to seal off flooded tunnel sections. The tunnel developers were also concerned by the flooding risk posed by firefighting efforts in buildings connected to the tunnels. And rain, never mind rain or snow melt. We are talking about Chicago, where they get feet of snow. Their winters are feet of snow. I really wanted to look up Casper the Ghost cartoon. It's one of the oldest cartoons, and it's basically about a dead kid. Right? Isn't Casper a kid? Seems strange. Anyway. And then, I mean, if you tunnel underneath water, where is the bottom? Like, how does that even work? How do they know in 1909 it was, 1909, he received the patent. But the system existed before that. This shit doesn't make any sense. See, their narrative doesn't make any sense. If the picture I'm shown is pre 1906 and it's all of clearly an old structure by then, the picture shows what appears to be an older structure. Doesn't look brand new. If that's from 1906, then what are we talking about 1909? This isn't conspiracy theory. This is me looking at the narrative I'm supposed to look at. This is what they want us to know. So I'm not, you can't sit here and shit on the source. You can't sit here and say I'm making shit up. I'm reading it to you. This is what they want you to know. And their own shit contradicts itself. Should a building catch fire, immense quantities of water could pour into the tunnels through elevator shafts and basement connections. Yeah, duh. To deal with this risk, watertight fire doors were fitted into all building connections. They just made watertight fire doors. The 1900s, everything's possible. Small leaks in the tunnels under the Chicago River. That just doesn't make any sense to me. We're gonna go Thames Tunnel next. Small leaks in the tunnel in the Chicago River had become commonplace by 1913. To deal with them, the tunnel company drilled holes in the tunnel wall and pumped grout at high pressure into the soil outside the tunnel in the vicinity of the leak. What? They drilled holes in and then high pressure grout was used? Didn't drilling the holes mean more water came through? They're drilling holes into the tunnel where the Chicago River is leaking in. This makes sense to you? What the fuck? And now we're just gonna yada yada. 1992. The 1992 flood was not the first time that a contractor's action threatened to flood Chicago by puncturing the tunnel. It would flood Chicago. All of Chicago would be flooded? That's pretty fucking crazy. In 1959, an excavation punctured the tunnel. See, this is more like them accidentally stumbling into something they probably didn't know was there at the time. They just, oh shit, we just found another tunnel system. How do you accidentally puncture the tunnel like that? An excavation punctured the tunnel, leading to a dramatic, successful fight to prevent disaster. Yeah, but we're not going to hear anything about that. They just did it. It was just it leading to a dramatic, successful fight to prevent disaster. That's the end. Nothing even blew. I can't even click on anything. Wow, that's fucking crazy. In 1992, a cable television employee in the tunnel underneath the Chicago River videotaped mud and water oozing in where the bottom of the wood pilings had cracked the tunnel. The wooden... What the fuck is made out of wood? The wooden pilings. How does this make sense? The pilings making up the dolphin had been driven only a few feet from the side of the tunnel, and the wooden pilings were visible through the collapsed tunnel wall where wet clay had slumped away from the wood into the tunnel. What do we... How? Doesn't the tunnel have, like, concrete walls all the way around it? What do you mean? It just... Or are we saying that the tunnel is just carved right into it? There's no casing. So I think that's what they're saying. Official response to the reported leak was slow. No emergency measures were deemed necessary, and a formal bidding process began for the contract to repair the damage. Again, good thing we're getting all of these details about the contract and all that shit instead of, how they did the dramatic fight in 1959 to save the shit.
And so the singing impossibles suddenly become biomass.
On April 13th, some 6 months later, the slow oozing of wet clay opened a clear passage from the riverbed, allowing the river to pour directly into the tunnel. They didn't see that coming? In what became known as the Chicago flood, the entire system was quickly flooded. The merchandise mart was the first victim, declaring a water emergency at 5:57 a.m. I had no idea that this existed. City Hall began flooding by 6:02 a.m. and the Federal Reserve Bank at 8:29 a.m. Oh no. Finally, the Chicago Hilton and Towers at 12:08 p.m. So a Harriman building, City Hall, the Federal Reserve Bank, and the Hilton were all a part of this. They were all connected too, apparently. This is fucking wild. The long delay before some buildings were flooded was a result of closure of some of the sections of the tunnel system in 1942 when the passenger subways were built. Many businesses had not realized they were still connected to the tunnel complex, as the openings were boarded up, bricked up, or otherwise closed off, but not made watertight. What the fuck? At some point, government agencies belatedly responded. The leak was stopped and the tunnels were emptied within days at great cost. The tunnels are still used for power and communication cables. They have been popular with urban exploration groups who would sometimes sneak in to have a look around, but since the Joseph Konopka terrorism scare in the early 2000s, all access to the tunnels has been secured. Boy, that's fucking strange. The accident shut down the entire downtown for days, causing considerable economic losses. Insurance battles lasted for years, and the central point being the definition for years the central point being the definition of the accident, i.e., whether it was a flood or a leak. Leaks were covered by insurance while floods were not. Are you kidding me? There was a leak. They let the leak go into the flood. Eventually, it was classified as a leak, which is why some of it have called the Great Chicago Leak. On October 14, 2009, workers pumping concrete into the tunnel under the Kennedy Expressway caused the roadway to buckle, shutting down all but one lane in the westbound express. So now we have design and construction. We actually have tunnel under construction in 1902. The freshly cut clay ahead of the concrete work shows clear knife marks. So it does have concrete. I mean, All right, I'm done. Look how crazy that is. That looks like damage. It doesn't look like so they built it like that. What sense would that make? Why would it not make sense to like all this construction has to stop while this construction this is dumb. And of course, there's nothing to prove it's construction. It just shows you something. Boy, that's crazy. Anyway, oh Jesus. You guys have a great day. You pedophiles all kill yourself and go get your free download.